On the journey to achieving big, you get bigger. It's not about reaching the goal. It's about who you become on the journey to reaching the goal. It's not about getting to the top of the mountain. It's about who you become by reaching the top of the mountain. Big requires growth. Big requires you to grow. And by the time you arrive, you're big too. Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome to Survive to Thrive. I am going to go right to the whiteboard. So give me a second to get this set up. All right, bottom of the page, everybody, if you want to know where this is coming from so you can go back and read it later on, it's coming from The One Thing and pages 87 through 92. And highly recommend you read this book if you have it and start with pages 87 through 92. Okay, so here we go. Thinking big is essential to extraordinary results. I mean, that seems simple enough, right? We all get it, but it's so interesting how many of us don't think big. You know, I've talked to you guys about this, I don't know how many times. And recently I've talked to you about it. We've all got a thermostat, and that thermostat is stopping you from thinking bigger. You get to a certain level of success and your brain shuts down and you start having, speaking of drunk monkeys, you start having those conversations with yourself that are limiting conversations, and great is still an option, but we're settling for good. All right. Success requires action. Write it down. And action requires thought. The only actions that become springboards to succeeding big are those informed by big thinking to begin with. So I have a question. Somebody take yourself off mute and answer this question, okay? If actions lead to big results, what has to happen first? It's not a hard question. The answer you're thinking that's obvious is the correct answer. If big actions lead to big results, what has to happen first?
Big thoughts.
There you go. Big thoughts. So there's this concept called point FAR, PTFAR, and here's how it works. So everything starts with programming, and we've all got programming based on our life experiences, going back years and years and years, back to when you were a little kid. You've got this programming. Programs can be changed. So programs are not permanent. You know, if I'm taking notes, I might write that down. Programs are not permanent. So the way point FAR works is everything starts with programming. Programming leads to thoughts. Thoughts lead to feelings. Feelings lead to actions, and actions lead to results. Now, those results, guess where they go? Guess what that leads to? It leads back to programming. So if you want to change the results, it starts with thinking big, but it goes back even further than that. It starts with programming. Think of your brain like a computer that needs to be reprogrammed. All right, moving on. All right, everyone has the same amount of time, and hard work is simply hard work. As a result, what you do in the time you work determines what you achieve. What you do in the time you work determines what you achieve. And, you know, as a coach, one of the most common things that I hear when I'm talking to real estate agents and I ask them, what's your biggest challenge? One of the most common challenges that I hear from everybody is focus. Focus and time. I don't have enough time to hit my goals. Now, when I hear that, my first thought is, wait a minute, I think we all have the same amount of time. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. There's 24 hours in a day. Yes. And, you know, I talk about this in my book, Rainmaker. And if you haven't read that part of the book, I'd recommend you go right there and just read the book. Read the part about time and how time works. And I get it. You'll have busy lives. And some of us have more busy lives than others. I mean, we have families to take care of, kids to get to school, homework that needs to be done, meals that need to be prepared. So I'm not dismissing that. I get it. But we all still have the same amount of time. Success is not the result of how much time you spend on your work. Write that down. Success is not the result of how much time you spend on your work. Success is the result of how much focus, energy, and urgency you put into that time. I mean, what if you had to hit the same results in half the time? Think about the day before vacation. The day before vacation, we all get more done. Why? Because we're focused. I want to get everything done so that I can go on vacation. We'll just work like every day is the day before vacation. All right. As a result, what you do in the time you work determines what you achieve. And since what you do is determined by what you think, how big you think becomes the launching pad for how high you achieve. So if you look at the diagram on your screen, you have two different boxes that you can live in, okay? You can live in this small box or you can live in this big box here. And it's what you do, how you do it, and who you do it with. Now, the what and how, everybody's probably like, yeah, I get that. And when I get to who, they're like, what are you talking about, John? What is that? What is that? Okay, so you're building a real estate business. You have 20% activities that generate 80% of the results. And as a real estate agent, those 20% activities are the most important things you do. So when you look at the actions, I want you to think 20% actions, not 80% actions. The who is who can I get in business with that will be the wind beneath my wings in order to take care of those 80% actions so I can focus on the 20% actions that are going to get me where I want to go. Now, the who can also be what brokerage are you with? What group of people do you hang out with? This group right here, Survive to Thrive, the 60, 70, 80 people that show up for the call every day, it's the who. You want to go farther? Hang out with a better tribe. Find better rooms to be in. That's the who. Now, small actions lead to small outcomes. Small actions start with small thinking. Big actions lead to big outcomes. Big actions start with big thinking. All right, moving on. Every level of achievement requires its own combination of what you do, how you do it, and who you do it with. If you learn to do something one way, and with one set of relationships, that may work fine until you want to achieve more. Okay, this is E to P. So the way the E to P model works is everybody has a ceiling of achievement. Your ceiling may be higher than somebody else's, but you all have different ceilings of achievement. And by the way, you're constantly creating new ceilings because every time you break through that ceiling, you've created another ceiling that you're going to hit you, that you're going to bump up against. Now, P is working is E is work, sorry, E is working entrepreneurially. In other words, what comes natural, right? And you hit that ceiling of achievement. The only way you're going to get through that ceiling of achievement is get to P. Now, P is purposeful. What are you going to do in order to break through that ceiling of achievement? And when you're hitting that ceiling, over and over again, it's painful. It's exhausting. It leads to resignation. In other words, this is as good as it gets. I'm going to settle for my level of success that I'm at because this is just as good as it gets. It may get better for somebody else, but for me, this is my ceiling and I'm just going to live right here, right below the ceiling. Now, eventually it leads to looking for greener pastures or giving up, quitting. In effect, you've boxed yourself in when there is a simple way to avoid it. Think as big as you can possibly can and base what you do, how you do it, and who you do it with on succeeding at that level. What you build today will either empower or restrict tomorrow. Write it down. What you do today what you build today will either empower or restrict you tomorrow. It will either serve as a platform for the next level of your success or as a box trapping you where you are. On the journey to achieving big, you get bigger. Okay, you've heard this before. It's not about reaching the goal, it's about who you become on the journey to reaching the goal. It's not about getting to the top of the mountain, it's about who you become by reaching the top of the mountain. Big requires growth. Big requires you to grow. And by the time you arrive, you're big too. All right, let's talk about growth mindset. Growth mindset that generally thinks big and seeks growth, and a fixed mindset that places artificial limits and avoids failure. Mindsets can and do change. All right, I think everybody's done with this whiteboard. If you haven't already done a screenshot, please do now. Okay, 1, 2, 3, time's up. So mindsets do and can change. You are not locked into the way that you think. You can change the way you think. Now, here's a myth, okay? It takes time to change. No, it doesn't. Change happens instantly. The moment you decide to change, change happens. It does not take time to change. It happens instantly. I'm going to stop thinking small. I'm going to stop settling for good when great is an option. I can achieve any goal that I can possibly think of. Think about that vision that you've created for the future. And if you haven't created that vision, by the way, this is a bunny trail alert. If you haven't created that vision, take time today to sit down and create that vision. Now, here's how this works. Start by making a list of everything you want to be, do, and have. Don't limit yourself when you're doing this. Remember, think big. What does your life look like 5 years from now? What does it look like 10 years from now? What does it look like 20 years from now? How powerful is that vision? The more powerful that vision is, guess what's going to happen? The bigger you're going to think. You're going to change the program and you're going to change the actions that lead to bigger results. All right, almost done. Okay, so Scott Forstall, uh, Apple, all right, iPhone, started recruiting talent to his newly formed team. It's the Who. Got it? That's the Who. He warned them that the top secret project would provide ample opportunities to make mistakes and struggle, but eventually we may do something that we'll remember the rest of our lives. Forstall was a senior vice president at Apple, and the team he formed created the iPhone. What if he didn't think big? What if he got stuck in that little box? What if his mindset was somebody else can do that, but not me? Somebody
We
else changed the world, but not me. Go ahead, Michael.
we'd all be still fiddling around with Blackberries.
100%. And I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I had a BlackBerry, I had a Palm Pilot. I hated those things. And when the iPhone came out, another bunny trail alert, I'm not an early adopter. I'll admit it. Now I can change that mindset, right? Because that's limited thinking, right? Michael Weisman, 100% limited thinking. And Michael's been working with me on this, and technology is becoming a bigger and bigger part of my life. Matthew Jesco laughing at me. And when the iPhone came out, do you think I was one of the thousands of people who stood in line to buy that thing? Hell no. I think it was like 5 years later, maybe 10 years later, when I finally said, okay, I'm in. I'm going to go out and get this thing. iPhone changed the way we communicate. I mean, think about another bunny trail alert. Think about the cell phone industry. Prior to the iPhone, how many phone choices did you have? Razor, BlackBerry, Palm Pilot. I can keep going. Today, it's pretty much iPhone or Android. Thumbs up if you're an iPhone. Thumbs down if you're an Android. All right. I hope you guys got the humor in that. All right. Pushing through. To live great, you have to think big. To live great, you have to think big. It didn't say you should probably think big. It might be a good idea if you think big. It says you have to think big. In other words, you have no other option. If you're going to live big, you have to think big. You think big? You don't. Think bigger. Think so big that it scares you. If your goals don't scare the hell out of you, then your goals are not big enough. Right, Karen? That's right. To live great, you have to think big. Achievements and abundance show up because they are the natural outcomes of doing the right things with no limits attached. Don't fear big, fear mediocrity. Holy cow. Don't fear big, fear mediocrity. Going back to E to P, mediocrity is when we settle for living below that line versus doing the work in order to break through to live a bigger life. All right, put your hands up. Talk to me. Talk to me, Michael. By the
Yes, it's
way,
funny how some.
I just want to point out the very first two hands that went up are co-coaches on Survive to Thrive, Michael and Birgit. I mean, I know these guys. They're like this would be me if I was listening to this. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I got to get in here and talk. So I definitely want to hear from you too. Okay, go, Michael.
It's interesting because I was just listening to something the other day, and it's just one short line, but it kind of ties directly into this. So, if you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. And so, by the same token, if you fight for that growth, you get to keep that too.
That's right. 1,000%. Karen, I agree. The razor was so cool at the time, right? I mean, seriously. Okay, talk to me, Birgit.
The razor was everything. I agree. And so I'm going to back right up on Michael, what he said. I think oftentimes and you said this earlier, who we become on a journey, but we have to go back to who do we need to become and actually to do that. Because it doesn't tend to be the goals. Goals can be scary and set those big, hairy, scary goals, but it's the actions that's where the scary comes in. So who do you need to become and actually do that and push that business forward?
Yeah, for those of you, thank you, Birgit. For those of you who are familiar with the model be, do, have, B comes first for a reason. Get
Mhm.
it? It's not have, do, be. Talk to me, Matthew.
Yeah, so I'm just listening to this and I'm thinking the brain is such a powerful tool that we grossly underestimate.
100%.
When we set these goals and we write them down, our brain is constantly working on this stuff.
Mhm.
Um, as a quick example, I did Tony Robbins' course probably 25 years ago, right? As a part of that course, it was, set this goal, set that goal, set that goal. And I had my little notebook, and I'm writing all these goals down and I found that notebook probably 15 years later when I was kind of going through it. And everything I wrote down, I forgot to even wrote them down,
Not shocked.
you know?
Not
But
shocked.
if you set these goals, while you're chewing your food or looking at the sunset, the brain's working on it. You don't even know it until it comes with that solution and then you have it. So if you set them, the brain will get you there.
Matthew, I agree. Thank you so much for sharing that. I was going through journals from back in 92. So in 92, I was 30 years old. Do the math, that makes me old. And I'm looking at those goals, Matthew, that I said in 92. I'm living that life today. I basically described who I am today, doing what I do today. Didn't even know it. Talk to me, Sean.
I think for a lot of us, I want to speak for everybody. Uh, what you said at the beginning, the programming starts really early.
Mhm.
Here's an example of the programming that I had to get rid of. My father did not trust banks, did not. He used them, but he did not. I mean, to the point where it's like, wow, my dad really hates banks. And then when I looked into it, it's like, why does my dad hate banks?
Mm.
Because I'm kind of hating banks now. Like they're the enemy, but I think
Mhm.
I need. And the programming was this: his grandparents
That's right.
had a bunch of stolen from him from banks, right?
That's right.
And that just kind of, that kind of like, don't trust a bank. Grandfather told him, dad told him. Now he's kind of telling me, and I'm like, well, what is this game? So my reprogramming was, this is just a game. If you have a low credit score, you're losing at the game. That's it. And so and that just as an example of how you're programmed as a little kid, that, yes, hard work is important, but without setting the goals, that part never comes in. I could go on and on, but when you start there, then you'll be able to get over these humps that you have. Will you get over in one day? It could happen. Could it be 5 minutes? It could.
That's
The
right.
more you toil, the longer it'll stay.
That's
You
right.
just have to self-reflect and get over it, figure out a way to get over it or get past it.
That's right. Here's programming for you. Raise your hand if you've heard this before. Money is the root of all evil. I love money. I think money is amazing. The more money you have, the more good you can do.
It helps, that's for sure.
Uh,
I heard my mother-in-law say that recently.
yeah, that's right.
That's a deep one.
That's right. That's right. Debbie Clark, you don't need a new brain. Stop it. Okay, talk to me, Mary Ellen.
So I'm just going to minimize here. So I was looking back. I forgot all about this, but somehow I was looking at something in my calendar. This is from 2019. Write out all of your goals, narrow it down to your top three. Sorry, I'm just scrolling. Throw out the rest of the list. So I
Right.
looked at the three things. I actually achieved all of them. So ready to do that again.
So it's time to set some new goals.
Yes, and I like these were goals that like no, this is not happening. like that. But like Matthew said, your subconscious is busy making it happen. You literally program it. It's amazing.
1,000%. So I forget what year it was, but it was the year Zig Ziglar wrote Over the Top. And I write Zig Ziglar a letter, right? With talking to him about my goals and the goals that I've achieved. And I get a letter back. I'm like, holy cow, I get a letter back from Zig Ziglar. That's so cool. 4 words: time for new goals. That's all he sent me. Time for new goals. Talk to me, Michael.
So I just wanted to tie a bow on that because you actually taught me that lesson years and years ago. Money is the root of all evil. That's, I'm no Bible scholar, but it's the love of money is the root of all evil. We shorten things up and take away meaning. But I will tell you that if you love a lot of people and help them, you will make a lot of money. Right? So it's the way we shorten them up, like jack of all trades, master of none. Sounds bad.
Yeah.
But the rest of that story is still better than a master of one.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So take a look at back when you hear little short things like that and see what the origins are, because we shorten things up and we take away meaning.
1,000%. So I'm going to put my pastor hat on here for a moment. And I was talking to somebody the other day, and somebody was a preacher. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a part-time preacher too, because if you've been on Survive to Thrive before, you know you're going to end up at church at some time. So 10 commandments. Thou shalt have no other God before me. If money becomes your God and it's more important to you than your relationship with God, it's evil. But money is not evil. Talk to me, Karen.
Hey, so this was just really timely for me. I maybe had a little drunk monkey going on too, but talking about the visualization, a couple of years, I was really unhappy in my job, and I started visualizing just me driving a black sports car, driving up to my office, opening the door and working my business. And I realized the other day, that's exactly what I'm doing. So new goals on the way, new goals unlocked. And I do visualize. I'm a firm believer in that visualization and training your brain. I literally listen to 5 minutes right before I go to bed of the universe always works out in your favor. I'm living the exact life the time. Thank you. Perfect.
Love it. That is a wrap. I've got 9:33, time to jump. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of your success journey. See everybody tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Invite your friend. Let's grow the group and make it a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Go get them, guys.
Hundreds of agents have leveled up their systems and listings with Coach John's coaching. Your turn starts here. Scan the QR code to schedule your session.